Hi guys, welcome back to the shop. I have gone ahead and made a new one of these stars. Actually, I've gone ahead and carved 3 more in order to get to this step. I had a number of breaks, but we're finally there, and today we'll be focusing on doing the gem setting. So, follow along with me, and hopefully you can see the small details.
So I wanted to take the time to show you the finished carving, and I think it turned out pretty well. What do you guys think? So onto the gem setting design itself. Now this is a 1:10 scale drawing, so everything here is basically 1 centimeter equals 1 millimeter. Now, the gem that we have is a 3 millimeter round amethyst, and it's going to need to sit into these sort of pins. Those are what you see at the 15-degree angles that kind of look like an H. Now we're going to have 4 of these, so each is going to be in a corner, and you can sort of see the design in more detail here. Now onto our wax itself. So we are going to be measuring out a 5 by 5 millimeter piece of wax. This is some very fine work, and I'm just trying to leave that little bit extra space because remember it said 4.6 millimeters that we were going to actually need. So I'm cutting a little bit wide of that way we can file it down. Getting caught in the maze, there's a minute that never get out of. They're feeding the fears and the doubts. After the piece is all cut out of our big block, it's now time to refine its shape. So I go in taking very, very small pieces off of this wax, maybe no thicker than a hair. This way we ensure that we're not removing too much, and we can always come back with a file to remove that last little bit that's there. Now that the piece is fully square, it's time to mark out the angle that we're going to do. So we need to bevel all of the edges, and we'll do this with a file, and I've marked some lines on the top of the wax. That way I know how far back I need to go. Now the end result of this should be a nice sort of pyramid-like shape. And here we are. That's the shape we were going for. Next up is now to mark off all the places that we will make our pins. So you see me sort of marking 0.5 millimeter on each side of this block. That way we can leave those pieces empty and remove the rest of the material in between. Now we're going to start off just doing the bottom portion of it. So I'm forming these small sort of 0.5 millimeter by 0.5 millimeter cubes on all 4 corners of this piece. This is very fine work, and you're going to take tiny, tiny amounts of material off each time. So patience is key here. So I just want to point out my sort of weird bobby pin setup I have going on here. This was my solution to solve the problem of holding onto this piece. I have no clamps or anything that could hold onto this without either damaging it or actually blocking it so much that I wouldn't be able to work on the piece. So this was my solution, and it just goes to show you that you don't need anything expensive to work on very small, intricate pieces like this. So up until now, you've seen me use a few different tools on this. One has been a scalpel, a sort of needle round file, and a square file. The best method that I found was to use the square file, then come in with the X-Acto knife to just get rid of any little tiny round edges on any of the pieces. Now we're coming in with a small drill bit, and that's just to be able to hold onto this piece a little bit better again. Because this piece is so small, in order to remove the top sections of it, I had to sort of pin it in place and hold it down with my fingers. Now we're back on the top section, and we're just removing the material where the pins don't sit, and once we get those squared away, we'll start to form the actual gemstone setting itself, where the gem will sit against this piece of wax, or silver in the future. Now, one of the best ways I found to sort of ease my transition into carving out these two different sections was to use a 2mm diamond file. That way I could get in between my little prongs and not damage them. And it also helped to square them away as well. Moving on now, this is our needle file again, and we're just going to begin widening this hole. So this needle file has a bit of a taper to it, but we're going to need to sort of make this a 45-degree transition. Now, that's not something that's super easy to do, but with this file, we sort of take it at a few different angles, and you'll also see me come in with a couple different drill bits to sort of widen this hole. That way our gemstone can sit flush against it.
We supersede, and we hold in the key. Yeah, we're tired as can be. We're rolling, just like we please. Ooh, getting caught in the mist, there's so many that never get out of. We're feeding the fears and the doubts. Ooh, but we're gonna run till the end, and we run without shame. We own the game, and we ride on the flames till the morning light, baby, 'cause we're dynamite. Ain't nobody gonna hold us down. Break all the rules, let them run and hide, baby, 'cause we're dynamite.
So now that we've got our holes sort of more defined, I'm coming in to refine our posts a little bit more. This is a square file again, and I'm just sort of cutting down into the wax, revealing more of that post, and then going from the center sort of to the edge. That way I'm removing material as slowly as possible. Now, these posts are very, very delicate, and at any time I could have broken them off, so it was a little bit stressful, but we got there. So by filing back our posts, we then revealed more of that hole. Now our angle is not correct in there anymore, so I came back with that needle file and made that 45-degree cut. That way our stone can sit nicely inside. Oh, now I know we're not done yet, but it's looking great. I thought that the 0.5mm feet that we had on it wasn't quite deep enough, so I made it more like 1mm, just so that way we'd have a little bit more showing at the bottom and light could penetrate into the stone a little bit better. Additionally, I came back with the square file to do a little bit more work on the posts, but instead of filing them down directly, I'm removing the material from in between them. Now, I'm not removing much at all, maybe just like 1/4 to 0.5 or about half the thickness of the posts themselves. This is just to define them that little bit more and make it slightly more elegant and a little less blocky. This also happens to be our final step with this, so we are almost complete. Now, I know I said we were almost complete, but we actually are complete. All that's left to do is glue our piece onto the other piece with some cyanoacrylate or super glue, and this stuff burns out in a kiln super easily. I'm using the gel variant, but that's just to give me a little bit more leeway, and it helps stick it to it just a little bit better. But that's pretty much it. Check it out, guys. It looks freaking awesome.
Alright guys, thank you so much for sticking with me. This piece is now glued together and it is safe to go in a kiln. The super glue has no problem burning out, so it shouldn't be an issue when we turn this thing into silver. Now obviously, in my shop, I do not have a torch to melt some silver, so this is going off to a shop, and hopefully next time we will have our piece back and we can get working on it and making it into a fine pin for ourselves. So, thank you guys so much again, and if there's anything you'd like to see made, please write it down in the comments, and hopefully I'll get to it in the future. Thanks guys, bye.